Before leaving, I found a gleaming artifact. When I tried to use the object, it broke. Obviously a worthless item of deception. Did anyone really need these? Riding through the poisonous swamp, I picked up some pale lilies. They felt soothing. It was not long, however, before a huge and nightmarish crab emerged from beneath the filthy surface. Fleeing, I soon thereafter passed by an apparition. It whispered of revenge and something called a frenzied flame, its words making me shiver. Nearby I found a slain beast. I hadn't seen one of those since the horrors of Castle Morn. Following bloodstains on the ground, I approached a cabin, and none other than Edgar appeared. Out of thin air he came at me, maddened with blind fury, attacking with the ruthless power of a father out for revenge, not even knowing who I was. In the end, I had to kill him. Among his belongings, I found some of those curious grapes that the blind maiden had enjoyed. Perhaps he would finally be at peace, maybe even with his beloved Irina. But I had my doubts, and as I rose that morning, I noticed the academy in the distance. Remembering the field glass I bought earlier, I closely studied its towers. I had to go there. Disheartened by Edgar's untimely death, I headed out and rode moodily into the swamp, with its early morning fog slowly evaporating. Then something materialized very close by, a magnificent dragon slumbering in front of sparkling treasures. I froze, unable to breathe or move. Finally, I broke the spell. Getting behind that terrifying beast, I discovered a key of the very sort that Tobbs had described. Maybe I had been unjust. Meanwhile, the dragon had awakened. Still, it couldn't see me, even if it felt my presence nearby. It was old. Killing such an elderly creature of the sky would surely be indecent. Pleased with my benevolence, I rode south, trying to locate an entrance to the academy. This city of old had been broken by time. Where had its people gone? As I found heavily barricaded stairs leading up, I felt that dreadful anger blossom once again, and killing every guard in sight, I came upon a grotesque moving head with a glowing and disfigured tongue. Before I knew it, the foul head spewed flames without regard for even its companions. At this point, I noticed somebody within it. A grey and scrawny fellow sat inside, apparently moving it with some devilish machinery. I jumped onto an overgrown and empty fountain, shielding myself from its warm embrace. But I could hardly believe my eyes. The wretched soldier inside the moving head was so inbred that he lost any will to pursue me. Lazily, he allowed me to finish my business with him and put the remaining guards to sleep. It became apparent that I was getting close, and as I touched a shimmering blue gate, I found myself brought to another place entirely. From here you could see it all. 4 peculiar towers rose in the west, and the north boasted an enigmatic wooded area with steep cliffs. But what truly made me gasp was the enormous fortress far away. It even seemed to touch the very Erd tree itself. Entering an old mechanical lift, I was pushed up and eventually came to an opening shrouded in mist. And then I saw it, the Academy of Rea Lucaria in all its glory. Standing next to a broken statue, I was in awe of the stately towers that rose into the air. I couldn't help but notice 2 things. First, that wild plant life was putting its mark on this glorious school. And second, that the academy had a fondness for birds. Going up some nearby stairs, I noticed 2 sorcerers wearing absurdly large masks. Oh, how they glared at me. Desperately trying to shield myself, I wasn't able to make a move, as their attacks locked me with a stunning force. Rea Lucaria was evidently not, despite its undeniable beauty, entirely welcoming. Enraged by their stupefying magics, I fiercely tore into these sharpshooting wizards. Opening the heavy door, I came upon a wondrous and church-like building, but with curiously clad creatures falling out of cages and coming straight at me. I decided not to engage in what would most likely be a naive attempt at dialogue. Outside, I recognized the full extent of the eeriness of this place, and I ran like a madman, crossed a bridge, escaped vile dogs, and finally reached a remote site of grace. The quiet room contained all sorts of objects, but I found myself drawn to some crystals. Were they spreading? In a nearby corridor, I found scholars, reading. After dealing with these book-wielding lovers of words, I looked at the corpses strewn across the floor and wondered in silence. Who had they been prior to this miserable ending? Had they been at peace with themselves? Resting in the quiet space with the remarkable crystals, I was bothered by a creaking of heavy wooden machinery. Then I remembered. I had, in my escape from the dogs, jumped onto a peculiar contraption. Realizing now that it also had to go down somewhere, my curiosity was ignited, and down I went. As I jumped from the wooden lift, I almost stumbled on a corpse, but regaining my footing, I was snatched by a hideously large iron maiden, seemingly alive and hungry. I was crushed in its soft and boiling stomach. But I didn't wake up in the chamber. Instead, I found myself suffocated by immense heat. I saw old metal carcasses in a lake of lava. I ran on and noticed countless cages hung high. Only God knew with what purpose. I sat down, crushed by the only meaningful thought which came to mind. I had gone to hell.